For a long time, the barn stood unnoticed, half swallowed by weeds and silence. Its wooden doors sagged under the weight of years, and the wind that slipped through its cracks carried nothing but dust and forgotten echoes. To anyone passing by, it was just another abandoned structure in the German countryside. But inside, beneath layers of decay and shadow, history lay waiting. Hidden from the world was a machine born in one of the most daring chapters of motorsport history, the 1936 Auto Union Type C. In the mid-1930s, racing was not entertainment, it was confrontation. Nations measured their technological strength not only in factories or laboratories, but on racing circuits carved into public roads. Speed was proof of superiority, and engineering was a weapon. Auto Union, a newly formed alliance of German manufacturers, entered this battlefield with an idea that defied convention. While rivals placed engines at the front, Auto Union moved the heart of the car behind the driver. It was radical, dangerous, and years ahead of its time. At the center of the Type C was a monstrous supercharged V16 engine. It produced power that even today commands respect, but in its era, it bordered on the unthinkable. There were no driver aids, no safety cells, no electronic safeguards. The car demanded everything from the man behind the wheel: strength, intuition, and fearlessness. To drive it was to negotiate directly with physics with little margin for error. On Europe's fastest circuits, the Type C became both legend and menace. It accelerated like nothing else on the grid, its rear-engine layout delivering traction that left competitors struggling to keep up. Yet that same layout made it unforgiving. When it broke loose, it did so violently. Victories were earned, not given, and every race tested the limits of human control. Then the world changed. As war consumed Europe, racetracks fell silent. Machines built for speed were suddenly irrelevant in a world focused on survival. Many racing cars were destroyed, repurposed, or simply abandoned. The Auto Union Type C vanished from public view, stripped of purpose and stored away, its future uncertain. Decades passed. When the barn doors were finally opened again, the car inside barely resembled the silver arrow it once was. Its aluminum body was oxidized and scarred, the once smooth curves dulled by corrosion. Tires had fossilized into cracked rings of rubber. Wire wheels were locked solid by rust. Inside the cockpit, mold and decay had replaced the scent of oil and leather. The engine, the heart of the legend, was frozen in time. Oil had turned to sludge. Water had crept into places it never belonged. Pistons were seized inside their bores, and every fastener resisted removal as if guarding the past. At first glance, restoration seemed almost unreasonable. But this was not about convenience. It was about responsibility. The disassembly began slowly, deliberately. Each bolt removed revealed another layer of history. Components were documented, measured, studied. Nothing was rushed. The goal was not to modernize or reinterpret, but to understand. To listen to what the car still had to say. As the body panels were lifted away, the tubular chassis emerged, a skeletal reminder of early racing engineering. Once sandblasted, it revealed stress cracks and corrosion from years of strain at extreme speeds. These were not flaws to erase blindly. They were evidence of battles fought on asphalt. Repairs were made with respect, reinforcing strength while preserving originality wherever possible. The engine rebuild was a journey in itself. The massive V16 was dismantled piece by piece, revealing both brutality and elegance in its design. Cylinder heads came off, exposing valves coated in carbon and time. Pistons were driven free with patience and force, releasing clouds of rust dust that marked decades of neglect. The bare engine block was submerged in chemical baths to strip away history's residue. Slowly, silver aluminum emerged again, clean and raw. Cylinder bores were honed, restoring precise surfaces that had once guided pistons at terrifying speeds. The crankshaft, long, heavy, and scarred, was polished back to a mirror finish, its journals once again fit for duty. Reassembly demanded absolute precision. Bearings were installed, lubricated, and measured. The crankshaft settled into place, spinning freely for the first time in generations. Pistons returned to their cylinders, sliding smoothly into freshly prepared bores. 16 times, the same careful ritual was repeated. Cylinder heads were rebuilt, valves seated by hand, camshafts timed with meticulous accuracy. The Supercharger, once choked with sludge, was reborn with new bearings and restored internals. Carburetors were cleaned down to their smallest jets, then reassembled until fuel and air could once again meet in perfect balance. Around the engine, the rest of the car followed. Suspension components were stripped, repaired, and refinished. Brake drums were machined, brake shoes relined, and linkages rebuilt so that control could return to the driver's hands and feet. The transaxle was opened, its gears replaced or restored, then sealed once more in factory-correct silver. The wheels alone were works of art. Each wire wheel was rebuilt spoke by spoke, tensioned into perfect symmetry. New period-correct tires were mounted, restoring the car's unmistakable stance. For the first time in decades, the chassis stood on its own wheels. It was a quiet moment, but a powerful one. The car was no longer a collection of parts. It was becoming whole again. Attention then turned to the body. Aluminum panels were carefully repaired, dents massaged out with hammer and dolly, missing sections recreated by hand using traditional techniques. New aluminum was shaped on an English wheel, blended seamlessly into the old. Welds were filed smooth, surfaces sanded until the car's flowing lines returned. Paint was not applied lightly. The iconic racing silver was layered with care, followed by clear coat, then polished to a mirror finish that reflected both workshop lights and the long road traveled to reach this point. Inside the cockpit, gauges were restored, needles repainted, wiring renewed. What once looked abandoned now looked purposeful again, functional, alive. And then, at last, the heart returned to the body. The fully assembled V16 was lowered into the chassis, bolted into place as if it had never left. Supercharger and carburetors crowned the engine like a declaration of intent. This was not a museum shell, it was a machine built to function. The Auto Union Type C had crossed nearly a century to stand once more as it was meant to be seen. This restoration was not an attempt to rewrite history, but to preserve it honestly. Every scar acknowledged, every innovation respected. It stands today not just as a racing car, but as a monument to an era when engineering advanced at breakneck speed, driven by ambition and bravery in equal measure. The Type C reminds us that progress is never safe, never simple, and never free. It is earned through risk, through failure, and through the willingness to challenge what already exists. From a forgotten barn to a reborn legend, the Auto Union Type C carries with it the spirit of its time. Unfiltered, uncompromising, and unforgettable.